out a video, and so here's my new contribution for the month. I've decided to put out a tutorial on how to do business cards in Illustrator, and I hope you enjoy it. This is what the finished product is going to look like. The front and the back. And so having this open, I have already created 2 new artboards at the very top, and just to sort of have a visual to sort of go by as I'm creating this. So the first thing we'll tackle is the front of the card, where I have this tiled background going on. So the way I created this was simply creating a square through using my rectangle tool. Now, the default is the swatch, so let's just take that away so I can show you how you recreate this. Okay, so let's give it a background color for now, just so we know where the square is. Let's zoom in. The way I created the flower was simply a series of circles. So selecting your ellipse tool, just create a small circle. Let's give it another color for now. Okay, and then selecting your rotate tool while your circle is still selected, just click on the lower anchor point, holding down your Alt key, click and drag to about halfway, and then now Control D will give you duplicates in the exact spacing. So this is okay, it's not quite what I wanted because it's a little bit off over there, so let's just go Control Z to undo. I'm going to select my rotate tool again, holding down the Alt key, just sort of I'm okay with that. This looks like a flower. We'll go with it. Now that I have this flower done, I want to make it a shape. So having all the circles selected, I'm going to open my Pathfinder and click on Unite. That gives me a solid shape. I want to have the center for the flower, so let's make that white and a circle. And obviously this is not centered, so I'm just going to select the flower shape and the circle, and at the very top align it horizontally and vertically. And so that's my flower. I'm just gonna it really helps if you have your guides on, your smart guides on, so then when you move your objects over another object, it gives you the center. And so that's what I'm using to make sure that the flower is in the center of the circle. Now, next thing we want to do is create the polka dots. So again, selecting your ellipse tool, click and drag, and I'm going to make this a gray, a lighter gray, and it goes right there. Actually, it might be a little bit off if I'm looking correctly. So make sure these are aligned. Okay, so selecting these two, holding down the Alt key, click and drag, takes you down there. These ones seem to be off. Okay, perfect. That's good. Now let's make the flower the pink that I want, or close to it at least. All right, I'm okay with that. Let's get rid of this background to nothing. And now selecting all these items that we've created, I'm going to go back to my Pathfinder box and hit divide. And this simply breaks everything up that intersects into shapes. And then we want to delete the outer edges of this circle and be left with this quarter of the circle on the inside. And now that we have this created, you just select the whole thing, click and drag it into your swatches, and it automatically generates a swatch for you. So now let's see what this looks like if we create a rectangle. And select the swatch. Don't forget to select the swatch. That's exactly what I wanted. Yes, it's slightly bigger, but that's easily adjustable. So you just select it, right click, transform, scale. We don't want to scale the shape itself, so take off the selection from transform objects and leave scale, strokes, and effects, transform patterns. That's great. So let's scale it down to about, let's try 80. Sure, I'm okay with 80. Let's keep 80. Just because it's sort of giving us that perfect white edge as well, and I don't like things to be cut off this way. So this works for me. I'm okay with it. Next thing to do is create this logo, watermark, whatever you want to call it, that I've done here. And it's simple. So it's just a series of circles. So using your ellipse tool again, click and drag. I would give it a white background on the inside and then a gray stroke. Let's just see. Yeah, that stroke's okay. And now we want to create two more circles, one to encompass the HC and then the other one to have the text on it. So selecting the same circle, I'll go Control C, Control F. Control C is for copy, Control F is for paste on top. Right click, transform, scale. And with your preview selected, if you scale things, you can see. Why can't I see it? Oh, because transform objects is not selected. So make sure you have transform objects selected. And yes, let's scale it down to 50%, and that's great. I want to make sure that it is filled with gray, like so. Then I'm going to select the circle again, Control C for copy, Control F for paste on top, right click, transform, scale, and this time, instead of scaling it down to 50%, I would like to scale it down to not 85, not 65, but 67 or 68. 68, let's do 68. And now we're going to type on this area. So select your type tool. It gives you all these options, and you want to select type on a path. And then when you click on that, this is what should happen. And you can just type out whatever your name is or whatever you want to type out. And I believe I selected Century Gothic for the font. And so I'm going to stick with that. Oops. I'm just trying to make it a little bit visually interesting by giving it some thicks and thins. Make it gray. And then I will give it some spacing as well. And I just filled the rest of it with white dots or periods, whatever you want to call it. And then you can just sort of twirl it or rotate it to however you feel is best. I like it slightly to the side just so it's still easily readable but has that asymmetrical look to it. So I'm good with this. Moving ahead, I want to do the H and the C on the inside. So selecting my type tool, just click anywhere and just HC. And then you can take it to the center, make it slightly big. And really you can use, like, have fun with it, use whatever font you want. I can't quite remember what I used below, but I'm just going to use, let me see, do I get a preview? Because I can't quite remember what it looked like. No, I don't like buffet. So let's just, I'm going to stick with French for now. Woohoo, French. And I don't want the spacing, so let's take it out. And so that's what we have. I'm okay with this. I'm going to select it all and group it up. So Control G for group. And let me just place it right about here. So it's not intersecting with any of the elements, and it looks like it fits well. Okay, so next thing I want to do is create the back, which should look like this. First things first, we want to give it a background. And so here's doing a rectangle shape over that again and selecting the color for it. Now I've given this an edge. Now normally these edges like this are a printer's nightmare because they cannot guarantee you an even edge on all four sides. So my printer always tells me stop doing these kinds of designs. But let's just assume you have an amazing printer that you're paying a lot of money to keep these edges really even. And let's go with that. So what I do is I normally, with the help of guides, I sort of give it a little bit of spacing that's equal on each side. And so this is the way I monitor if it's off or on or what have you. So I have the guides in there already. We're just going to make sure that we have a white stroke and our rectangle tool is selected. Click and drag. And that gives us this. That's perfect. I have this guide in place to reflect the division in the card where the logo will be. And so again, I'm going to do this with the line segment tool selected. Okay, great. Now with the same thing selected, I will create these other lines that will be representing the contact info on the back. So right now I have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6 areas for text. I'm just going to sort of create them and see where it goes, and let's see how many lines we land up with. Really depends on how much information you have and you want to make fit, so you can always sort of adjust that to your needs. I'm just going to zoom in to make sure that it's not coming out of the edge. And this looks right to me, so zoom out a bit. So having the line selected, holding down your Alt key, click and drag, and then just Control D to repeat it. Now this is a lot, so I'm going to undo this because I don't want that much info. And I'm going to space it out a little more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, let's take away the last one. So this is what I have. I'm okay with this. It kind of looks like the top and the bottom is kind of even in space, but again, it's your card. It does not have to be even. It's okay to be a little bit off symmetry sometimes. It's okay. White background gives us this that we're trying to achieve. And I am actually noticing that the lines are a little bit off. Yeah, they are a little bit off. So I'm just going to zoom out again, select it, make sure I don't have other things selected that I don't want to change in size, and just move these over. Okay, I'm pleased with this. This is good to go. It'll be fine. Okay, moving on. So next thing I want to do is have the logo off to the side. So I'm going to select my logo, Control C for copy, Control V for paste, have it right there. It's a little too big, so I'm going to right click, transform, scale, and bring it down by about 90%. Yes, I'm good with 90%. And now it's a different version of the logo. It's a more, what's the word? I'm not going to be using the right terminology right here, but it's instead of solid fills, it's just going to be a stroked version of the logo. There we go. So this needs to be white, a little bit thicker. This is pink. Yep. And it looks to be that the recreation of the logo is a little bit too small, so I'm going to select it, right click, transform, and scale. And let's make it 110, 115. Okay. Now again, this is a very subjective thing. You might have thought that, hey, that logo, the size was perfect. It's fine. She didn't have to do anything. It's really up to you. Okay, so I'm okay with how this looks and where it's placed, and so I'm just going to leave it right there. So now the last and final thing left to do is literally just putting in your information, and that's really basic. So let's just do it. Oh yeah, let's make sure that we don't have our names written in a fancy font like this that you can never fully read properly. So having that selected, I'm just going to revert to Century Gothic. Designer of things. And I'm just going to bump the size of my name up. Your name should always be around 8 points or a little bit bigger, more legible, and it should be the first thing really that people see besides your logo. And then designer of things, I'm fine with it being about 6.5 because it's all uppercase. And then I'm going to give it some spacing because I love giving stuff spacing. Blech, spacing. That's what I meant to say. There we go. I'm okay with that. Let's just make it the same color as the background so it has that look like it's been stenciled into this white piece of rectangle. Okay. So I like how this looks, and now the rest is going to be so easy to do. So literally it's just a matter of clicking, holding down your Alt key, click and drag. Just make sure you have the text selected as white, and bump it down. And now you can literally start putting in your info. So I didn't put like telephone or anything in front of it because the info is so basic that I figured it was pretty self-explanatory what numbers meant. And I'm going to keep it at the same size as 6.5, because it looks pretty good to me. Ideally, if you wanted to go 7 or bigger, that's never a bad thing, but just for the sake of spacing, I'm going to leave it at 6.5 because I like it. Yeah, just going to make sure these are repeated throughout. Yeah. So it's my my email and my website address. Okay, so that is clarice@gomes.ca, and it's my website address. And now the last thing is to have your little social media stuff at the bottom here. Now obviously the way I set it up, I made it seem that all my social media handles are under Hello Clarice. They are not. It just worked well with this design, and I figured, you know, when you're branding and if your name is available and you're able to get the same name across all social media handles, that makes things so much easier from a branding standpoint, from, you know, people remembering who you are, and, you know, just making that brand recognition more prominent in people's minds and just out there in the web generally. So I downloaded these free social icons from online, and so that's where this is how I get the vector version of them. So I just copied them from this document and I had placed them in here. So let's just redo that again, okay? So copy and paste gives me all these icons. I'm going to make them smaller and delete the background for them. I'm just going to take out Google Plus just because. And this is what we're left with. And so I'm just going to click and drag, make sure it lines up. And I think that's it. Yeah, so there you go. That's essentially how I created this business card. Now, if you're setting it up for print, here's a few tips. Make sure your backgrounds are extended at least 0.25 inches outside the edge, and this gives it a little bit of bleed for your printers. Again, same with your patterns as well. The thing is, when you extend your patterns, it sort of distorts the swatch design, like the designed swatch. So just make sure you click on it again for it to resize. Now, obviously, we had sized down the pattern size, and so when you click on the swatch again, it sort of resizes to default. So let's right-click, transform, scale. Make sure transform objects is off, and scale down the pattern size to 80% or maybe even 75. No, let's do 80. Yeah, let's do 80. We did 80 so we could have the nice white space at the top and the bottom. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so this is how you create a business card. I hope you guys found it helpful. I hope you liked it, and I hope you are able to use this at some point, somewhere. I will make these files available online on my website for download, so please feel free to download the files and use them as you wish. Again, thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.